unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live, Boxing Ego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Ryan Garcia says Lomachenko is staying away from fighters like Orlando Salido, styles like that. And he says he knows how to beat Lomachenko. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing if you want to become part of the gang. Notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the Super Chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, the Cash App, and the Patreon family. We working. Now, we slanging the ESPN Plus bundle. That includes ESPN Plus, Hulu, and Disney Plus. If you'd like to sign up, it is $12.99 for all three of those apps. Help you through this quarantine. $12.99 a month. I have all three. Sign up below. Link is in the description box of all my videos, and it does go to help the channel. When you guys click on that link, it does help support what we're doing over here and continue to help me put out content and grow. So appreciate you guys that have signed up. More news on the UFC 249. Once I get the word from Disney, we working. Now, Ryan Garcia did an interview. He mentioned in a portion of it Lomachenko, and he said some interesting things. This is what Ryan Garcia had to say. Lomachenko, he's thinking of how to work, how to get positioning, and how to move in the ring. He took what Willie Pep, Sugar Ray Leonard, their footwork, Joe Louis, that nice little smooth, like fluidity. He took it to his level and his talent, So unless you have the talent and the right game plan, then you're not going to beat him. I know how to beat Vasil Lomachenko. It's already out there. There's a blueprint there, and he's trying his best not to fight people like that. You know what I'm talking about. You know the loss he had, so you don't fight nobody like that. He says you don't want to fight anybody like that because he's going to lose again. Lomachenko's not talented enough to get a strong motherfucker off him. He's not talented enough to do that. End quote from Ryan Garcia. He also said some interesting things. He says, if you're trying to outbox Lomachenko, you better be an animal, and at the same work ethic in learning the art of boxing as him. If not, then be a dog. Gervonta Tank Davis has a better chance of beating Lomachenko than Teofimo because Tank Davis is a dog. He'll dog it out. He'll dog out Lomachenko. He's just too strong for Lomachenko. You know what I mean? I already see how Ish plays out. I already know how it's going to go. They're not going to beat me, though. End quote. So, first of all, I'm going to say this. Ryan Garcia he sounds hungry. He's been talking and saying a lot. I think Golden Boy, the best thing would be for Golden Boy to step up his level of competition, just because he's knocking out the Fonseca one round, Romero Duno, go to a guy who has showed us something, like even the Jorge Linares at this point, someone like that will show us. I would say Gamboa if he wasn't coming off a loss, things like that. And at least step up to that echelon of former top 5 guys, champions, former champions, stuff like that. But the way Ryan Garcia is talking, I think people need to see that. He said if he beats Tank, he'll beat Tank and he'll whoop Tank and he'll be the next Muhammad Ali and this and that. And he's saying I know how to beat Lomachenko. So I think some people are going to be, just because he hasn't stepped up to that level of Lomachenko or Tank, Devin Haney style fight, Teofimo. Some people are going to be blown away by his comments and say, "Oh, what does he know?" But looking past that, I do think that Golden Boy needs to, take the lead off him, the leash, and allow him to make good with some of the stuff he's saying about beating Tank and Lomachenko. And if you're not going to get those fights, or you can't get those fights, there's still other guys that would be, in my opinion, better than Jason Velez. And show us more. They're more inherent danger than Jason Velez. Guys like Romero Duno, stuff like that. Even Jorge Linares, I could think of some guys that are probably, to me, like Javier Fortuna. that would tell me more about Ryan Garcia, a guy like that, as opposed to Jorge Linares, because his styles make fights. You see what I'm saying? But beyond that, Ryan Garcia said some very interesting things, and it sounds like what I've said, and that's about Lomachenko. It's no coincidence that Lomachenko fought Salido. He was so ambitious, him and his team. They thought, oh, 2 gold medals. None of these guys. He has a great amateur record, 397 wins with 1 loss that he avenged twice, stuff like that. 2 gold medals. So they were feeling themselves when they came in the game, and they got a rude awakening challenging for a title too early without really getting the logistics straight about the amateurs versus the pros. And they were in with the rugged guy who came in heavy and was willing to try to take the win by any means necessary, which happens in boxing. You can't complain. The way Robert Guerrero beat Andre Berto, that's just what you're faced with. The way Sean Porter beat Berto, that's just what you got to deal with that. The way Maidana came at Floyd Mayweather in the first fight, especially, you got to deal with all that. Same thing with Wilder losing to Tyson Fury. You got to be equipped to deal with the different styles, because it's not always going to be the ref sees stuff your way and makes all the right calls and stuff like that. So you got to be equipped for whatever, ready for whatever. Lomachenko obviously wasn't. He lost, and he never rematched Salido. They always never wanted to pay Salido what his money was, what he was worth for defeating Lomachenko, yet they praised Lomachenko even with the loss and said he was the greatest ever and all this stuff. Muhammad Ali of the sport, and he never fought Salido, long story short. Now, as so much time has passed, who cares about the fight? Because Salido, last time I seen, he was like stealing beers or something, so we don't even know if he's the same fighter, but they definitely should have done the rematch. It's funny how when it comes to black fighters, they always have to take the immediate rematch. It's almost like an unspoken rule. It'd be taboo for the fighter to look in the other direction, even if it's not advantageous. Like Joshua Ruiz. Joshua took a nasty loss, but it was like almost there would have been pressure, like, oh, he's ducking Ruiz if he didn't fight him. But Lomachenko, he gets to skip out on an immediate rematch, and to this day not rematch him. So it was interesting to hear Ryan Garcia say what he said about basically the same thing I've been telling you. Lomachenko's team has purposefully stayed away from that style. Like, for example, Lomachenko never had more than 1 belt until he got to 135. And he did it, and his team is just clever matchmaking, like I've been telling you. Lomachenko's good, don't get that twisted. But he's also came into a weak division, right? This is no coincidence. He came into a weak 135 division where you got guys like Jose Pedraza, who had 1 fight and then was able to fight Ray Beltran, who never really got a champion from beating, a solid guy like the opportunities he had, Ricky Burns. Even though you could argue he should have won that fight, they didn't give it to him. Terrence Crawford, I was at that fight, beat the brakes off him. So Ray Beltran didn't have a title for years, but he was, a respected worker in the sport and stuff like that. And an older Ray Beltran, that's who Pedraza beats with only like 1 fight in the bag at that new weight class. So Pedraza wasn't even really proven. And even then, it wasn't Lomachenko's best performance. You look at Jorge Linares, we've seen him stop before. Yes, he was the champion, but he's been stopped before. And Lomachenko, Luke Campbell, he lost to Eva Mendez or Vinny Mendez, Eva Mendez brother or whoever. And he lost to Jorge Linares and got dropped in that fight. We have never seen Lomachenko fight somebody that, basically the division where he has the most belts that he's ever had in the multiple divisions that he's been in, he's went through the weakest people. Like, for example, if he would have stayed at 130, then to get a belt, he would have had to fight Gervonta Tank Davis, and he'd had to fight Machado at the time, and he would have had to fight Miguel Bercho. Miguel Bercho is probably the closest thing to Orlando Salido, both of Mexican descent, and both are rugged. And Berchel's probably, more fluid, and he's big. He's a big dude. But Lomachenko moved up out of the division and left Tank and Berchelt and Machado behind and never fought him. He was content just having 1 belt. And I think that's what Ryan Garcia is also seeing, and he's suggesting is Lomachenko. He didn't fight those type of style. He fought Nicholas Walters off a long layoff and a draw to Jason Sosa. He fought Gary Russell Jr. At the time, Gary Russell's resume, people were calling him the tomato can killer and shit like that. Gary Russell actually showed more after losing to Lomachenko, but that was a big step up in class for both. So I think that was the most important thing that Ryan Garcia said in the Lomachenko is the Lomachenko side of the interview is that Lomachenko is staying away from guys like Salido and certain guys because he knows they'll lose. And then it's funny because you look at guys like Devin Haney, who's hungry, been calling out Lomachenko. Devin Haney just posted, if you go to his social media, he just posted a DM that he sent Lomachenko in Lomachenko's inbox saying, "What's up? I heard Teofimo might be backing out. Fight me then." And he won all the smoke. But Lomachenko and his team had the WBC make him franchise champion to stay away from Devin Haney. So, it's looking like Lomachenko. I just see Lomachenko. If he does what's right, then I think Lomachenko's going to end up losing sometime soon. I really that's just what I see. I'm not going to beat around the bush. And I think Ryan Garcia kind of sees that. He says you don't want to fight nobody like that because he's going to lose again. Now, we'll see. Ryan Garcia, Teofimo, Tank, Devin Haney. We'll have to see if Lomachenko has some tricks because he has experience on all of them, So we'll have to see if he has some tricks up his sleeve. But I could definitely see him if he fights the adequate competition. And it's funny because Floyd Mayweather in the sport, 21, 22 years, impeccable record, never lost like Lomachenko, brilliant performances, beat the most world champions, former world champions, etc. And then old media act like they don't want to give Floyd props, but they give Lomachenko props for having 15 or 16 fights. And, they want to convince, like ESPN, they try to convince people that Lomachenko is number one pound for pound, but he's clearly not fighting certain styles. Miguel Berchelt is signed with Top Rank and Lomachenko is signed with Top Rank. How come this was never a fight? So you lost to a Mexican fighter. Why not fight another Mexican fighter that has similar attributes with subtle differences, but he's a big, strong Mexican combination puncher who has an engine and lets them punches fly? It just seems like it's not even about Lomachenko would absolutely lose to Berchelt. It's about let's see it. You know what I'm saying? It's about the most compelling fights. So Ryan Garcia, he hit the nail on the head. I don't know if he beats Lomachenko, that part of it, but when he's saying Lomachenko's staying away from certain styles, it's apparent. Okay, so you left 130, didn't fight Tank or Miguel Berchelt or Machado, and you were content just having one belt, at 130. Move up to 35, and then you're fighting Pedraza, who Tank stopped, but you still haven't fought Tank. You never fought Mikey Garcia, who at the time was a knockout lightweight. He destroyed Dejan Zlaticanin, and he embarrassed Robert Easter Jr. I was at that fight. I was at both of those fights actually. Robert Easter Jr. got dropped once or two times and shut out by Mikey at 35. Conveniently, Lomachenko never fought those fights. Conveniently, the Devin Haney fight, he pulls, when Devin Haney's his mandatory, he pulls this, I'm the franchise champion now, BS. But you find all the time in the world, fight Anthony Corolla, Luke Campbell, Jose Pedraza, who really came from the 30-pound division and is not the strongest guy, and Tank had already stopped, etc. Teofimo's his best recent fight, and obviously that hasn't happened yet for different reasons. So I'm anxious to see what's next for Lomachenko, because I think the walls are closing in like I told you they would. Lomachenko gets a lot of praise, 15 fights. You just got to analyze who he's recently fought and all the parameters. Nicholas Walters, again, was coming off a draw in a year-plus layoff. That's just the facts. Nicholas Walters, it's not like Lomachenko fought Nicholas Walters right after he knocked out Nonito Donaire. That would have been something maybe. But momentum, timing is everything in boxing, and this is what they do for Lomachenko and other fighters. You know, they have this clever matchmaking, and Ryan Garcia, you know, he called it out and he spotted it. Again, there's really no reason that Lomachenko was about it and wanted to fight Salido in his second pro fight, but then he loses. People cry foul and say Lomachenko was at a disadvantage because Salido fought dirty or he came in heavy. Then why didn't you do an immediate rematch? Because they didn't want to lose again, and they knew that would be more detrimental to his career. So they always priced himself out and wouldn't give Salido the amount of money he wanted and made sure it didn't happen. It's really easy to see. Again, it's just too many coincidences. You didn't fight Salido. You didn't fight Devin Haney. You know, opted to be the franchise champion. The Teofimo fight, at first you were fronting on Teofimo and saying, who is this guy? And this kid has never done anything. Until now, the pressure grew from new media and Teofimo's performances. You didn't fight Mikey Garcia. You haven't fought Tank, you know. So I agree with Ryan Garcia. Lomachenko and his team are carefully plotting and moving through the divisions. And the division 130 was definitely more stacked than 135 because the 135 guys were all the young kids who were still like fresh on their journey, and they're just now starting to come into their man strength and get more experience. But when Lomachenko first got to 35, you know, it was his first look at his first couple of fights. Linares, who we know if you bully him, he folds, you know, Corolla and guys like that, Luke Campbell. I mean, it's just laughable. And they're trying to make Lomachenko the undisputed, but if he fights the right fights, well, actually, if he fights Teofimo and beats him, then he'll be undisputed if he can beat Devin Haney after that. Because don't get it twisted, with the WBC making him the franchise champion, I don't care if he has the WBC diamond belt, unless you beat Devin Haney for the regular WBC belt, or, you know, they took it from him, but he's trying to get it back. I don't know, whatever. Whoever has that other WBC belt that you basically had to get stripped of in order for you to become franchise champion, you got to beat them. So I think it should be Devin Haney. Let me know what you guys think of Ryan Garcia's statements. Ryan, like I said, I just got to see Golden Boy put him in there because he's obviously hungry and he wants a big fight, and that's the better way to gauge him. Other than that, it's going to be hard pressed for people to believe some of what he's saying. They're going to say, oh, he's just saying stuff. He's just saying he could beat Tank. He's just saying he could beat Devin. He's saying none of these guys could beat him, saying he'll beat Lomachenko. But until he steps up in a higher category and we see what he's made of, it's going to be hard, and, you know, you're going to have the critics. Let me know what you guys think. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. We unpacked.
So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.